There's not a ton to say about Amazon's advertising tools, but there are some things to say, and they are important because otherwise you can, dig yourself into a pretty big financial hole pretty quickly. So, uh, this is what your dashboard looks like. If you've done other advertising tools, it's similar. You have a list of campaigns down here. Not sure why it's so tiny, but so right now there's two campaigns running for the workshop survival guide, and you can see in the, it's spending a few hundred per month. Like each of these lines is a month, and it's getting some number of sales. So here we spent 250 and we got 650. However, the biggest mistake that you might make as a new author is you would think that Amazon is conveniently telling you the profit in this, like that you've spent 150 and you got 450 like royalties, and so you've made a profit of 300. That is not actually true. This is the cover price that it reports. So basically, they're saying you spent 150 to sell 450 worth of books. But then you still need to look at that and go like, okay, out of 450 worth of books, what's my share as the author? What's my royalty out of that 450 of top line revenue? For Kindle, it's really easy to calculate. Kindle is almost always 70%. If your book is $10 or less, it's going to be 70%. If it's more than $10, it's 35%. But you should make your Kindle, $9.99, so you get the full 70. So you go, okay, like take the 450, 70% of that, and that's like, okay, I'm still making a profit, right? Paperback is more complicated. Paperback is like a per copy fixed price, and then it's based on page count. Hardcovers have a higher cost than paperbacks, and it changes depending on the color you're using. So when you're looking at these things, you want to leave a pretty wide margin of safety. So here it's 3 to 1, which is really comfortable. Here it's 2.5 to 1. So, we're getting 2.5 in revenue for every one that we spend on advertising. That's like a super safe margin. 2 to 1 is safe. Less than 2 to 1 is like you might actually be losing money. So here we spent 100 to get back 200. It's possible we're actually losing money there, right? Because in some cases, like depending on the format that we're being sold, if this is mostly paperback, we might be getting less than 50% profit on our paperbacks. So we could actually be losing money here. So that's like the big gotcha. This month, what are the two lines here? It's a confusing chart. Spend is blue. Oh yeah, it's just like different y-axes on the left and right. So even the chart is kind of lying to you in an interesting way. um, so yeah, you got to take this data with like a thoughtful grain of salt, where you go like, okay, what does this mean? The big top line metric they try to give you is ACOS, which stands for average cost of sales. Um, in theory, if the ACOS is less than 100%, if they were reporting on your royalties, then you'd be making money. Uh, but as I mentioned, this is based off the cover price of your book, not the royalties you get for selling the books. They're not trying to be tricky. Basically, the ad product was built for non-book retailers, and it started with other products where you actually like are selling a product, so you care about top line thing, and they don't know the royalties, and they basically expanded that to apply to authors. So it has some of these weird legacy quirks from that expansion. So keep that in mind. When you're seed marketing, it's okay to break even. But when you're later, you don't want to be losing money on your book ads. And that's why we only spend 200 per month, 150 per month, 100 in that month, 150 on this book. It's because you would think, oh, you're 3 to 1 profitable, crank those ads, sell a lot more copies. But actually, no, like you need to leave a pretty wide safety margin. And also, Amazon clicks get more expensive really fast. So if we try to double the number of clicks, the clicks would get way more expensive so quickly, we'd lose money. And for this book, for Workshop Survival Guide, what we can do profitably, feeling safely, is, this amount. It's, spending 100 a month. And then it comes back to you after 2 months. Amazon is 60 days delayed in their payments of royalties. So if you're spending the money in March, you're going to get paid for those sales in May or in June, depending on where it falls, like where the end of the calendar month falls in the royalty payouts. So basically, when you're spending money, you got to be prepared to spend 3 months before you get the first month's back, but you do get the data immediately. So what I like to do if I'm testing a campaign is we'll create 3 campaigns. So the campaign builder is here. You've got different types. Do not use lock screen ads, by the way. But these are fine. Sponsored products is probably your like main thing. Um, Sponsored products is what I'd recommend. Lock screen ads are good for popular books. So if you're like Malcolm Gladwell or you're writing like pop fiction for everyone, lock screen ads are good, but you just can't target these, so they're not a good fit for useful books. Whereas sponsored products, you can target really tightly on either other similar books that your readers might be reading or other products they bought. These you just can't target them well enough, so they're useless. Uh, all right, so it's some kind of sponsored product, and then you go through. It's a little campaign builder. Uh, as your book gets more sales data, Amazon gets pretty good at guessing and like pre-optimizing your campaign for you. So this automatic targeting here gets really good as you've got sales data because Amazon knows the type of people who want to be buying your book. And we tried pretty hard to out optimize the automatic and we just couldn't do it reliably, or we could do it, but it took so much time and it was so marginal. However, you need the sales history for Amazon to be able to do this. So if your book is new and you don't have a lot of purchases yet, and you don't have a lot of, there's just not a lot of data, then manual targeting is going to be necessary because you're going to know more about the type of people your book is supposed to be for than Amazon will. So if your book is new, you got to start with manual targeting. If your book has some good sales data already, you can go with automatic. And once you've manually targeted for a while and you've got it dialed in, then you can make a bunch of campaigns really quickly if you want with automatic. Um, if you want to learn it, the best resource or my favorite resource is Kindlepreneur. Uh, Dave Chesson, who does Kindlepreneur, is very analytical, very structured. So if you're trying to learn, go in here to his site, go to learn, go to book marketing. Focus on the advertising stuff, in my opinion. Like you can go down a lot of rabbit holes, and there's a lot more. There's a lot of like marginal improvements, and there's stuff that works for fiction authors, but not nonfiction. So like book marketing, Kindlepreneur, stay focused on the ads. He's a great source. And then over at Advanced Amazon Ads, if you want like an agency or a full service, Alex is great. He does the marketing, the Amazon ads for a bunch of books. It's expensive to get someone to do all your ads for you. I wouldn't recommend it unless you have money to spend. But if you do, Alex is someone I recommend over at Advanced Amazon Ads. And we've got a little affiliate link. So if you want to, throw a favor back in our direction, you can hire them through our affiliate link. And if you want to learn it yourself, I recommend going through Kindlepreneur. If you're doing other types of paid advertising, I talked about this more in the video about optimization, so I'm not going to repeat everything. But this tool, Genius, genie.us, is basically a link shortener for books on Amazon. You can attach an affiliate account to it. So you're getting both click data, like Genius Link gives you some additional data on who's clicking, when, which links. So if you want to test stuff that's outside of standard Amazon PPC, like if you wanted to do some newsletter sponsorships and try to see if newsletters would convert into clicks and sales, sign up for Genius. It costs like $3 or $4 a month, I think. And instead of giving someone a direct link to your Amazon, you give them, where are my links? You give them your like Genius link that you've kind of custom made for that campaign. If I go down to some of my books, you'll see that there's a bunch of different links for the same book. So mom test, different languages, different ones for write useful books. And that's because like this is something that I did with Platzi for the Spanish version. I'm like, oh, is that going to drive clicks? Well, it drove 2 clicks. So I'm like, okay, don't need to spend a lot of time on that as a promotional thing. But there's some other times where I might have done like a custom link and someone mentioned it in their newsletter and I'm like, oh, that drove like 1,000 clicks, for example. That is definitely worth doing again if I am able to, or even paying for it. And you make these custom, so it's Momtest BR, Momtest SWE, like for different languages or different individual campaigns. And then you can figure out what's working for you outside of Amazon. And they'll also attach your affiliate thing to it. You're not meant to use these links inside of an ad. So like you can't have a paid ad pointing through an affiliate link. It's just a restriction of Amazon. But if it's like a link from a newsletter or from content, even if it's sponsored, that you're allowed to. So that's the big gotchas. Other stuff doesn't really matter. There's loads of people who will say like, give us $50 and we'll, I don't know, give you all these links or mention you in these places. I have heard of those working for fiction authors, but I have never heard of those working for someone writing a useful book. So my advice is like, don't bother, or if you do bother, don't spend a lot of time on it and don't spend a lot of money on it, and make sure you use a Genius link so you can figure out if it worked or not. You're not going to sell a ton of books through PPC, is my opinion or my experience. Maybe Alex over at Advanced Amazon Ads knows how to sell more copies than I do. But you can certainly sell some, and selling an extra, like, this would be an extra 100 copies a month, an extra 50 copies a month or something. And certainly that can help your seed marketing, because if you're moving an extra 50 copies per month over a year, that's 600 copies. And if your seed marketing goal is 1,000 copies, then an extra 50 per month really adds up. And it's rare that this is going to be your only sales strategy, but it can certainly complement what you're doing, and it can do it at a profit, right? You don't need to lose money. Uh, when we're creating campaigns, we usually create like three. We'd set a $20 per day limit on how much we're allowed to spend, so Amazon can't like take all our money all at once. And after a week and $20 per day, we're going to look at those 3 or 4 campaigns. We're going to shut down all of them except for one. We'll leave the one running because it's profitable. We'll try to optimize it. Then we'll test another 3 campaigns. That's kind of how we go through it to make sure that we're not losing money and wasting time. All right. Any other questions on this stuff? Just let me know.